How you doing, buddy?
Hello, I'm all right. How are you?
Oh, someone else coming in, I think.
Yeah,
Um, hey, is Adam here?
we've
Hey,
got
Adam.
Adam's on his way. There he is.
How you doing, buddy? How you?
Hello, how you going? How's it going?
I'm all right actually today, to be honest with you. I've been a little bit bumpy this week, but
Hmm.
firstly, before I say anything else, I would say thank you for giving me the time to have a chat. Really,
Oh no,
Like,
it's my pleasure.
yeah.
thank you for your time also.
But yeah, well, no, but to be honest, these things have actually helped giving me things to look forward to.
Yeah, but same here. To be honest, it was it was nice to be asked because we don't do anything anymore. So
It does feel really weird, doesn't it?
yeah, you're not kidding.
Yeah.
So I think the last time I would have seen you guys was on the side of the stage for Green Man.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah, when you were DJing.
Yeah.
Yeah,
yeah, that's right. Yeah, I was trying to think the last time I saw you, but I had it down as I know we spoke at the Great Escape.
Yeah.
Great Escape at the back end of the Haunt.
Yeah.
Is it the Haunt? Yeah, yeah. I remember speaking to you there.
I remember being in really early because dry cleaning were on at like 10:30 in the morning.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
I remember like I think I was like really bleary eyed. I think I gave you the kind of the kind of apology for not coming to see you guys because there's about 50 million other things happening.
Yeah, yeah. There's a lot of options. That's all right.
you've seen it enough. It's the same every time.
No, last thing is that I mean, like, I bet you at Green Man though, you probably wouldn't be expecting to be walking on whilst I was playing the Ra band.
No, but it was good though.
Yeah, no, it's a great. Yeah, the shadow of my love, of your love,
Yeah,
which is it's just like one of those singles which I picked up in the charity shop for about 50p.
yeah.
Happened that the B side, the A side's good, but the B side was just even better. It's like I- I'm a sucker for because I'm a sucker for a good bit of disco. To be honest with you,
Yeah, good.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Who isn't?
yeah, and I think that's the thing is like, to like a lot of people sometimes slag off like disco and sometimes pop music, but it's like, come on,
Oh,
well, it's really really good.
yeah,
Right.
yeah. It's amazing. I've been listening to the new Miley Cyrus single a lot recently. It's very good.
I tell you, one of the singers which carried me through summer was Kylie,
Right?
her latest one.
Okay, I'm not sure I've heard that one.
New stuff.
It's so good.
Yeah.
It's basically like there's a thing which she does really well where she goes like, we're gonna do something really ridiculously out there and like in a disco pop,
Yeah.
and she's basically gone all out there, and I think it's with um someone like I think it might be with either with St Vincent on production.
Oh wow. Okay.
It's got very much that kind of feel to it,
Yeah.
and so it's got like kind of in a nice way like an 80s tone to it.
Sure, yeah. There's a lot of I've noticed that a lot in some of the really big pop hits at the moment. There's that really sort of nice, but like the 80s production that still feels quite like warm and analogy, but like yeah, it's definitely like it's in vogue at the moment, but it's
Stranger Things effect, isn't it?
Yeah,
yeah, maybe so. Yeah, yeah. Because actually, the new Miley Cyrus song, the
yeah.
production on it sounds a lot like the stuff the Christine and the Queens was like releasing like last year, and that it's got like similar production value to that. Really good though. I've got a lot of time for it.
But the same with the Kylie single and the whole I think the whole new Kylie record. 'Cause,
Yeah.
like, it starts off with like kind of shimmering, pulsing, kind of almost analog synth sounds. But then it's
Right.
continuous repetitive guitar line all the way throughout it, which is like very kind of chic Nile Rodgersy.
All right. Yeah. Yeah. Nice.
So
Nice.
like kind of, but it's also like sipping. So I think that sometimes with artists of their stature, they can obviously pick and choose who their producers are.
Yeah.
It's always been really tastefully.
Yeah. 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 But this conversation did quite quickly. Were you expecting to be talking about Kylie Minogue with us so soon?
No, not really.
First thing on the checklist.
Yeah.
The thing is, though, I think that actually that I think that it's really weird because I didn't necessarily expect myself to be getting so obsessed with it, but I
Yeah.
did. I literally like went through like a 2-week period where I was listening to almost something like that, but like 24/7.
Yeah, great.
So I'll get like kind of really obsessed with like it maybe falls into like personally my OCD kind of territory would be like kind of like I'll be searching for specific songs,
Yeah.
play
Mm.
beats, and there's been that there's a record by a band called Ganza which I really like.
Oh yeah.
Kind of
They're American, are they? They're
Chicago. And yeah, the last song on that is an absolute foot stomper.
yeah.
They basically it's like as if a disco punk band went, hang on, let's try and create a James Bond theme song with like
Right. Okay. Wow.
lots of brass and lots of like kind of um it's got that big kind of almost like it kind of reminded me a bit of like when Garbage did the James Bond theme song for like The World Is Not Enough.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
It kind of reminded me a bit of that.
Oh wow. Okay. I'll have to check that out because I've heard a couple of songs, presumably the singles from that Ganser album.
Yeah.
I've not actually listened to the whole thing yet. I did like what I heard though, but the songs that I heard were more like I don't know, for a better term, they had that sort of like post-punk kind of sound, and it sounded like, oddly enough, it sounded very New York in
Yeah.
style as well. Like it had that kind of the New York post-punk kind of heritage woven into it. But that sounds interesting, actually.
But it's like as if the other bands which they kind of like they're definitely influenced by sonically by Jesus Lizard and by the girl band
Right.
thing, and you kind of hear that. I mean, those are the similarities which I draw to them.
Yeah.
It's like as if because they've been working with was it Mia Clark, who used to be the guitarist for Electrolane.
Oh, right. Okay.
So I think they just decided, right, let's because there's a few tracks where they'll have like the odd jazzy breakdown sort of thing.
Yeah.
Slightly unexpected, but then also makes the record even better.
Right.
I'm doing those little like kind of in a way U-turns which fit neatly within the songs. But
Yeah.
as a listener, I find those little things really exciting.
Sure. Yeah.
I
Cool.
mean, do you ever think about like when you're writing with pigs? Do you ever think about like kind of taking in little kind of elements of other genres in some ways?
Do we?
Not intentionally, but I think it's inevitable to an extent.
Yeah. Some things that I like in terms of like the lyrical content, I try to. I mean, some of the lyrical content is quite bleak, but I kind of try to counterbalance that with like other songs that are a bit less, yeah, a bit less bleak, a bit more uplifting.
Yeah.
So that's something I'll consciously think about. And in terms of like, well, like we were talking about, like, like really big kind of mainstream pop music, like some of the messages in that like are really wonderful, I think, and really valuable as well. And that's something I try and think about weaving into the lyrics.
Yeah, and I mean that kind of comes across as well, and also like because one of the things which I've kind of noticed is like how the sound that you make does kind of hark back to like 60s and 70s kind of influences, but then also it's like as if you've kind of like gradually progressed and developed, like kind of almost like changing the changing kind of shape of the band and stuff sort of thing.
Yeah.
I think part of that is possibly down to Chris, who plays drums, because previously we had Ewan was in for quite a long time, and after Ewan left, we asked Chris to join, and he's obsessed with 90s garage and hip hop. And all of the reference, if there's any points where he'll send a reference track of kind of where he wants to take some influence from, it's always, you know, TLC or Craig David or or some obscure hip hop track that he's pulled out. And it's, so I mean there's definitely some influence there. I mean, I'm not sure we've had anything to do with that, but he definitely has.
Yeah, like, 'cause I guess when I think of you guys, I do think of, you know, like kind of, I guess the obvious influences would be like kind of Sabbath and like kind of King Crimson to a certain extent.
Yeah.
Maybe like just trying to think of like case of like Uncle Acid and the Deadbeats and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
There has been like kind of, especially within doom metal, there's been a whole, well, you know, the whole like kind of slew of new bands basically kind of coming through at the moment.
Yeah.
I think that the thing, I don't know quite how it is, what I'm going to phrase in my head. I'm thinking of something, but I'm not quite sure how to phrase things.
That's okay. I find that a lot with myself.
I'm the same. I tell you what, I think one of my favourite shows I saw you do was in Rough Trade in Bristol.
Oh wow. Okay, yeah, that was that was really fun, but that's the only time when, like, well, actually no, that this has happened twice, and only twice, where during the sound check, I've said after we've sound checked, are we too loud? Like, this is like really terrifying how loud it is, because that room in the Rough Trade in Bristol, it's like it's probably about as big as the room I'm sat in. Like, it's like, it is quite shoeboxy, isn't it? But there's that sort of it's like clad with soundproofing and things, isn't there? So it's like, it feels like the sound has absolutely nowhere to go. It's not like escaping the room at all. It's just, it felt so like sonically dense, like the air felt like really thick in there. It was great though. I loved it.
Did we not give you some earplugs or vice versa? Yeah. So remember you stood at the front and yeah, Matt was like, this is very loud. Please, people, please put your earplugs in.
Yeah, we did use some earplugs, yeah.
Yeah. Rarely that happens, but it's not necessary.
Which I do like about sometimes about Rough Trade is that sometimes you can tell when the band's to be loud, because you can hear it kind of like travelling through the walls.
Yeah.
I have to say that Anthroprof, I mean, like when you were sound checking, you can like hear the noise kind of travelling through. When Anthroprof were sound checking, who were like the band who was supporting them that night, it was like the iron cast doors weren't so much slightly trembling; they were completely slapping.
Yeah.
Nice. And
Yeah.
because you're talking about like kind of Gareth, who used to be in Gareth and Jesse, who like the bass player and drummer, used to be in a band called the Big Naturals.
Yeah.
To go back. And then obviously Prof is also in the Heads.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, they're two of Bristol's loudest bands.
Sure. Yeah.
I mean, I've got a really funny story which involves kind of Anthroprof. Because I used to be a part of like organising a festival called BrizFest.
Right.
Around about mid to late 2000s, because it was like a replacement for Bristol Community Festival, which went bankrupt in like 2007. And we allowed the people who used to run the Croft, who now run the Exchange, we allowed them to book a stage. And so they booked Big Naturals to play.
Right.
And the thing is, with the festival site, is that a lot of the stages were kind of backed onto each other, because it was like in the harbour side in Bristol, in that little like kind of amphitheatre area.
Okay.
And obviously, and Anthroprof basically drowned out the entire festival site. The sound engineer basically switched off the PA, didn't make any difference whatsoever to the volume, and the only thing which stopped them from getting actually kicked off was the fact that the guy who's doing the sound monitoring couldn't take an accurate reading because there was a car alarm kind of like going off in the car park, which was being triggered by Gareth's bass noise. And I have like a kind of a running joke with him which
Wow.
which was like kind of basically because he would always turn up every single gig with like his massive wall of amplifiers, and and he'd always turn up with like something new that he just purchased online. And so my joke would be like, "Does my bass sound big in this?" It's like, "Yeah, it sounds very big in this." Like,
Yes.
'cause he's also got loads of gear from the Melvins because he manages them.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
think he's got a lot of gear that he hires out, and he seems to bring all of it to any gig he plays.
Pretty much, yeah.
And yeah, it's
We just,
terrifying.
well,
We
it's
played a big. Was it Bristol that we played with Big Naturals
Yeah.
at the? Where was it? That was the Consumer Electronics gig, and
Yeah.
and they played first, and there was just a room, and it was just full of his cabs, the
Yeah.
whole room.
Yeah.
Yeah,
He just look at it going like, Jesus Christ, that's going to be loud. And then but then also like, it's more than it's also you lose kind of sort of a sense of feeling.
Yeah.
But then again, it's like as if the reason it's been like kind of like lightning bolt sort of thing, where
yeah,
it's about like kind of I think there's a thing about like kind of using sound as a creating like kind of like almost like a claustrophobic atmosphere.
Yeah. Yeah. I
yeah.
would.
Like that sort of physicality. It's pretty important to a lot of, but it is to us, and obviously to them. They achieve it to a greater extent than we do, but yeah, I think that's really important. That sucking the air out of the room,
Mm.
Yeah.
hitting people in the chest with it is
Absolutely.
it does the trick.
I
Yeah.
mean, one of the few shows I actually had to wear earplugs for last year was Lightning Bolt.
Right.
And
Where
it's like,
did you then?
they played at the Trinity Centre,
Right.
which is where I'm going to be heading down later. Because
Okay.
we're lucky in Bristol, we've been able to have socially distanced gigs.
Hmm.
I mean, I'm not sure like what it's like where you guys are in terms of like, lockdown sort of things.
There have been a few. There's been, I mean, on the race course at Gosforth, there's been like really big, quite commercial
Hmm.
stuff on like a big kind of outdoor stage. There's not really been anything kind of on those lineups that's particularly interested me at all. Like really big acts. Aside from that, like there have been like a couple of the smaller venues have been doing some socially distanced gigs. I think with the tiered thing and us kind of going into like the second tier, it's become a little bit more difficult for them now because where they were having like tables of 6 people, now they you're not allowed to like socialize with anyone outside of your who lives outside of your household. So that's kind of made it a bit more logistically difficult for the promoters, I think. So
I think that must be also like really difficult for people who like live on their own. I
yeah,
think because
absolutely, yeah,
I've definitely felt that myself, sort of thing.
yeah,
So, yeah, Bristol and they could be placed into tier two, like in the maybe week or so's time, because of like the infection rate has quadrupled since like the students have come back,
yes, yeah,
and
Yeah,
it's really like kind of yeah, and it's like I think that's what's also like affected a lot of people's like anxieties is the uncertainty.
yeah, sure, absolutely.
It's like knowing like we can do some things in some part of the country, but we can't do them in other places. And it's yeah. I mean, I found it a little bit like kind of like. I mean, I found it easier during lockdown to a certain extent because we knew exactly what the rules were.
yeah,
You know,
yeah,
and also admittedly that I was doing like lots of live streaming shows, so I'd
yeah,
be like kind of sometimes heading out for my like 1 or 2 hour long walks sort of thing. But,
Mm.
but I'd have like a whole like with like I'd make sure that my phone would be fully charged up, that I could get Wi-Fi in a lot of the places. Just gonna be like kind of playing people's live performances whilst kind of I'd be in the parks.
yeah.
Yeah, that's good.
So
Yeah.
that could be anything from like, say, this is the kids who've got a brand new record out today, which is really beautiful, through to like stuff like Disgunda, which is like Japanese kind of like almost like kind of power violence kind of stuff.
Wow. Okay.
But but then again, it's like I'd just be like kind of walking around without any headphones, because otherwise, to be honest, knowing me, I'd probably walk out to the middle of the road and almost get run over somewhere.
Yeah, you got to be careful with headphones on, especially in like busy built-up areas.
Well, it's like I guess during lockdown that wasn't so much of an issue. But it's like one of the reasons why I had to stop like kind of listening to my iPod was because I kept on seeing things which weren't necessarily there.
Okay.
So I get so, intensely into something.
Yeah.
Like, especially if it's like a really well produced record, I'd be like starting to imagine, all the instruments around me.
Oh, right. Okay.
Sort of.
Well, that sounds nice. Though.
Yeah, no, it was really nice. Apart from the amount of times I nearly got run over, or the like.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's a couple of times when actually I ran into a lamppost. Like literally, I'd run almost head first into people. Think like like the was it the was it, oh God, was it Symphony? The Verve, the video for the Verve.
Oh, yeah.
He's like walking into people. Think like that, but it's like, but like kind of someone running probably from one venue from one place to another.
Yeah.
I used to keep a tab of like how many like kind of door frames I used to walk into as well. Because
Door frames.
yeah, because I'm kind of quite dyspraxic,
Right. Okay.
and so sometimes like things like spatial awareness.
Yeah.
So especially like sometimes like for instance at festivals and stuff like that when you've had like hardly any sleep, my spatial awareness sometimes I'd be like kind of can I either semi trip over? How many fences could I accidentally walk into inadvertently? Or like, how many people could I like kind of, I don't know, kind of like almost run into
Yeah. Yeah.
sort of thing.
You could tag people as you're doing it. So, like, at the end of the festival, say you could like give them like a yellow hat or something every time you like knock into someone, and then by the end of the festival you'd be able to see all of the people wearing yellow hats that
Little smiley sticker that you used to get in first school,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Slap that on the chest as you bang into them, and then
I mean,
Yeah.
like the kind of like the MAGA hats sort of thing.
Yeah.
Like kind of, but yeah, I found it like kind of, it's. I mean, one of the things which obviously I've missed like over the summer has been like festivals.
yeah,
Like kind of like we've obviously like talked about kind of Green Man because that was one of my regulars.
Yeah.
And like you're looking at other like smaller festivals having to do like set up GoFundMe pages,
Yeah.
like Sea Change in Totnes.
Yeah.
Like have been setting up they've had to set up a GoFundMe because they missed out on the Cultural Recovery Fund.
yeah.
Right.
And yeah, and I was thinking about like kind of what next year's potentially going to be like
No.
in terms of like those kind of events.
Yeah, I mean, I guess, I've got no idea. It's trying to stay optimistic, hopefully it'll work in some way, but who knows?
I mean, I think the thing is that when people are able to properly tour again, like kind of doing non-socially distanced gigs,
Yeah,
I think that there's going to be like such a huge hunger for it,
yeah.
and actually, I mean, and the other thing which I've noticed is that, especially within Bristol, a lot of the socially distanced gigs have actually really focused in on how good some of our local music is.
Mm,
Like in Bristol, some of it's absolutely like jaw dropping.
yeah,
So whether it's about like, so for instance, tonight I'm going down to the Trinity to see a band called Waldo's Gift, who are like a kind of jazz math rock trio.
Well,
And so they blur kind of free jazz improvisations with bits of math rock and bits of almost it was almost verging on techno-y last week. Um, and so I was like kind of sat on the table with people having a mini rave. Um,
You
Oh.
saw them last week as well.
yeah, because they announced like a extra show for tonight.
Right.
We sold out so quickly.
Wow.
So I was like, right, okay, if I could get in tonight, then I'll go down, and then like I'll probably be I'm back down there tomorrow for Young Echo Sound, which is more like experimental techno,
Yeah.
like electronica-y stuff. But then also like the venue which I've been mostly attending has been the Lanes, which is
Right.
okay, yeah.
one of the few indoor venues which was suited to because they already have the chairs and tables.
Yeah, right.
And so, I mean, they've been having lots of stuff like from like bands like Alanza, who are like amazing post metal band, through to people like Dan Johnson, who's quite frankly one of the most ridiculous drummers I've ever seen, doing like a solo show.
Wow. Okay.
It was like kind of quite often when people think solo drumming, they quite often see drummers with triggers, and
Yeah.
that was like no, none of that. Uh, it was basically like as if he was creating melodies by the propulsion of how fast he was playing,
Wow. Okay.
you know. And then like he also had like a kind of he had like he had lots of percussion that he was playing with as well at the same time.
So does he not? He doesn't use like drum like triggers. He doesn't use electronic sounds at all. It's just like acoustic instruments. That he. Oh wow. Okay.
Highly acoustic.
Yeah.
Like a kind of whole load of like kind of double skin drums. They had
Wow.
like, kind of hanging up behind him, so it was like it wasn't just using sticks. He was using like his hands, and it was all very kind of it was all very kind of like it all had like a kind of syncopated groove to it.
Sure.
But
Okay.
it's the reason why it kind of worked.
Yeah.
And he had like a kind of flutist who came and joined him on stage for like one song,
Uh-huh.
which sounded a bit like kind of Arabic
Okay.
sounding sort of thing. But yeah, I mean, like, I think that's the thing is that I've been lucky as if in living in a city like Bristol where we do get spoiled.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know,
kind of feel the same with Newcastle, really. There's a sort of a bit of reputation for sort of touring bands to miss it out, or at least they used to be. But the bands that are in Newcastle are, you know, there's a wealth of them, and there's some really incredible stuff. We're we're pretty lucky.
I think sometimes it's just really easy to overlook actually some of the stuff, like you know, like kind of because there's so many people at the moment who are constantly releasing things,
Yeah.
like for instance, and I think that sometimes it's really difficult to find new avenues for those artists to find their names.
Mm.
You know, my it's like my old traditional avenue would be basically turning up early to a gig. Okay, it's quite often have like a local act opening up,
Yeah.
or sometimes I find that the supports would sometimes be better than the headliners.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I tell you another show which I absolutely loved for you guys actually, which is also probably one of the funniest I've seen you guys play, was the Fiddlers, the Give a Shit Christmas gig
Oh yeah.
with B. And
Say like that was just brilliant. Very fond memories of that.
oh, so do I.
Yeah.
Especially seeing Mr. Martin from Homes of the Hammer.
Yeah.
Or,
Robert.
I
Very real.
nicknamed him now Homes of the Hammered because he was absolutely steamrolled. And I think that's going to be the most epic raffle I've ever seen. Like an hour and a half.
It lasted ages, didn't it?
Did you win anything?
No, but the
Yeah.
thing is that I didn't. I mean, for me, I didn't necessarily care because of like, even though I'd like to have ended up with half that stuff because of like, some of it was like my ultimate Christmas shopping list.
Yeah.
Because of you know, like I would love to have had like the signed Mandy soundtrack.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Blu-ray and stuff like that because that film is amazing.
Yeah, yeah. I bought the soundtrack very recently, actually.
Oh.
I've only just somehow I've hadn't seen it until lockdown. I don't know why. It's kind of been on my list since it came out, and I just never got around to it and watched it very recently. It's incredible.
I saw the very first screening at the Watershed.
Right.
I was that obsessed by it that I was like, right, I've got to go and see this.
Yeah, I'd love to see it in the cinema. Yeah.
And I was in the same screening as Luke Vibert, of all people, because I think he was due to be supporting like Hookworms the night afterwards, but they had to cancel the show.
Right.
And yeah, I mean, it took me like 3 hours to calm down afterwards.
Yeah.
It's a bit like because sometimes cinema can affect me like how live music can.
Yeah.
I think part of what really affected me was also how heavy that soundtrack is. I mean, like, I think that's actually more terrifying than the film.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's an experience on its own.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But there's some parts when you're watching it, and you're going like, Jesus Christ, you literally do feel like as if you're actually on drugs. There's the whole scene where if people haven't seen it, I would highly recommend it because it is possibly one of the best Nicolas Cage performances I've ever seen.
Yeah, he's
absolutely. Yeah.
It's like the first 45 minutes, like, oh, Nicolas Cage acting well within Nicolas Cage. And then it gets to the certain part where they kind of like drag and kill his wife, and it's like, oh, hello, Nicolas Cage. You know, any part where any scene where he basically is covered in blood, downs a bottle of whiskey and snorts along his wife's ashes. It's like, okay.
Yeah.
Because it's like, you know, I try to explain to people, but it does have the best chainsaw fights I've seen in most films.
Yeah.
It's really funny because that was produced by Elijah Wood's production company.
Yeah.
And so I've also seen The Colour from Outer Space as well, which is
I haven't seen that. Yeah.
Oh, that's equally surreal.
Right.
There's certain things which Nicolas Cage does amazingly, and there's over pronunciation of certain words. So and like basically, there's always scenes where he's in the car and he's basically screaming. It's like if you've got to have that in every single one of the Nicolas Cage films. And
there's some incredible compilations on YouTube.
In The Colour from Outer Space, it's a pronunciation of the word hydrologist.
Right. Okay.
It's like, well, yeah, you know, like it's in the way that he like kind of overly excitedly over pronounces things.
Yeah.
And it's just like one of those things where I was like, right, I had to go and see like Mandy, but then I also had to go and see The Colour from Outer Space. And just both times I had to go and get a really strong coffee afterwards to process the madness that I had seen. Because of like, I mean, The Colour from Outer Space, I think, is a bit more like The Thing.
Right.
But it's still like it has that sense of like tapping into Nicolas Cage's wild side and also his love for like cosmic horror.
Mm.
And it's definitely worth watching. It's definitely like far from boring. Well, but I mean, like, yeah, but also going back to that show, I mean, like, yeah, going or Martin Holmes under the hammered. I think
he was gone.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, he let his hair down, didn't he? It was.
I think he's well known for like being a bit of an alky on set as well, apparently.
Oh, really? Okay. Well, while he's selling houses.
Yeah. Probably. Well, to be honest, you know, like you do look at him, and go like, yeah, like imagine him when he's drunk. But you should have seen him also when they had the show at Motion like last year.
Right.
Oh God, he was possibly even worse.
Is that the one that? Is that the other fundraiser that Big did Idols play that? Was that the one? Yeah.
they had Idols, and they had Billy No Mates, who
Oh,
I really like her record, and they
That's good. Very good.
had a Blondie tribute band who were fronted by like Debbie Harris. You know, so it was like, but they're like the #1 Blondie tribute band.
Nice.
I think some of them actually do when Blondie tour play as a part of like Blondie's live band.
Oh well, there you go. You can't get more authentic, kind
Yeah.
of a more authentic tribute act than that, can you?
Well, I was DJing that night as well because it was the night, unfortunately, of the UK elections.
Yeah.
Awful.
Yeah,
I went to see Richard Dawson play. It was the night after, I think, the elections, and that was, yeah, a strange atmosphere. Like, yeah, I don't know if you found the same, but
much the same. Very, very much the same. I think
yeah,
it was almost like as if you could feel like almost in the room when they announced the like the kind of poll results sort of thing, and you could almost it was like halfway through Idol set, and you could just feel the energy almost like go like kind of turn into slightly negative.
yeah,
It's because like. I mean, that night was such a high because they'd raised like something like 90 odd grand or something.
yeah.
Local homeless charities.
Amazing.
I mean, they also had Banksy design the T-shirts for them
Yeah.
and
Wow.
designed the poster artwork. So it's like those T-shirts are now going for like I don't know upwards of like 200 or 200 quid sort of thing.
Yeah.
Because they were obviously only limiting them to all the people who could be at the show,
Yeah.
which I think is completely fair. But I mean, like it was, but I mean that was definitely the biggest like kind of show in Bristol had that year, really.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's the thing. Is one thing which I do like about Bristol is that we don't have like any really huge venues.
Yeah.
Right.
How big is the how big was the is the venue that was at, that the Beacon the Idols Christmas thing was at? How many does that hold?
1,300 ish.
Okay.
So it's about like kind of so I think motion it's about maybe 1,600. It's about
Okay.
100 capacity basically.
Yeah.
And that's pretty much our biggest venue. Is
Yeah.
like Motion or the Colston Hall, which I think is about 2,000 people. But you know, we don't have like some of the major cities. They'll have like a major arena, which will be like
Yeah.
1,000 people.
Yeah.
I'm kind of like I know that they're planning on building one just outside of Bristol, but I'm glad it's not in Bristol because it would take away from like the Louisiana and like take away from a lot of the more interesting venues.
Yeah.
It's interesting that there hasn't been one until now.
Well, there's been talks of one. But it's continuously been, you know, kind of opposition against it, really.
Hmm.
And I think that if you are going to host like a big venue, it's like making sure you've got all the infrastructure there.
Yeah.
So, like, whether the roads can take the traffic, whether they've got like kind of easy access public transport systems, and yada yada. There's so many things that need to go into consideration. I think.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sure.
Because also how it will affect like local areas. I mean, to be honest, I mean, I'll very rarely go to a big venue unless it's to see someone very specific. I mean,
Yeah.
big show I did, and that's partly because I was placed on the guest list was Idols at Ali Pali.
Yeah. All right. Yeah.
That was pretty ridiculous because it's been like, hang on, here's a band I used to see playing the floorboards, playing
Yeah.
like 10,000 people, having all the lyrics being sung back in their faces.
Yeah.
You know,
That's nice
yeah.
Good on them. Yeah.
thing to witness.
But it's like if in I've only ever been to like the O2 Arena once, which was to see Nick Cave.
Right.
I mean, like there's only certain caliber of artists which I would go and see in a big room.
Yeah. Sure.
Nick,
How was Nick Cave in the O2?
incredible.
Yeah.
You know, it's partly because of I must admit I couldn't really afford the tickets, So I mean, I managed to go because of I've got a very well-off friend who's an obsessive British Sea Power fan,
Right.
and so when British Sea Power, I think early that year, played the Trinity, we were kind of I was out with the whole group of the fans afterwards, just having kind of social drinks sort of thing, and it's like, hey, I've got a free ticket for Nick Cave if you want to come. I've just booked this kind of corporate box. And so I was like, okay, and he's like, right, okay, I'll pay for your transport, I'll pay for everything.
Yeah.
Okay. So if someone's saying that they're going to take me to see an artist which I like for free,
Yeah.
to take them up on that opportunity.
Yeah.
So,
And it was amazing because it was him for like 3 hours
Yeah.
pretty much, and where we were,
Was that the tour he did where it was just him? Was it the In Conversation tour or was it Nick Cave and the Bad Seeds?
the Bad Seeds.
All right. Okay.
It's like his 65th birthday tour,
Okay.
and I think he was touring like the Skeleton Key at the time, and it was really amazing because of it took when we got in there, it took me 45 minutes to calm down because of how big and how far up we were.
Yeah.
Like,
Strange.
but it's really funny because of actually someone else who also happens to be like an Idols fan and a massive Pigs fan, actually ended up being sat on top of me, sat above me, sort of thing, uh, which was like strange turn of coincidences.
Oh wow.
Because if you ever play in like in Edinburgh, there's a guy called Simon Mason who's like the Scottish version of me.
Right. Okay.
He's like me, but he's like kind of he's a bit older and he's got a massive ginger beard and and always wears the trucker's cap sort of thing.
okay.
But I think I mean, like I usually always see him at Green Man and like at End of the Road sort of thing.
Hmm.
I think if ever I've spoken to him, it's had to unless I
Name
saw
rings
it,
a bell.
had to because we played in Edinburgh. We did play last year, didn't we? In Edinburgh, at the Mash House in Edinburgh. So I'm trying to picture him, but
Yeah, he's like kind of. I mean, I'd describe him as like if you imagine me, but also someone who's like much more of a jet setter as well.
right, okay,
I remember like there was one weekend last year where he went to like the Sheffield Doom Festival, like Sheffield Doom weekend.
okay,
Hmm.
He like could have quite into like some of his metal and his doom and his prog,
Yeah.
as well as like kind of post punk and stuff like that.
Hmm.
And he literally kind of like flew back home to Edinburgh for about 20 minutes, then like got on another plane to fly down to London to go for Richard Thompson's 70th birthday celebrations. You know, the
right,
Albert Hall.
wow,
Intense.
To be honest, people have said the same about me. I mean, okay, I'm more localized intense. Sometimes people would see me running from one side of the city to another, trying to squeeze in as many things in one evening as possible.
Wow.
I wouldn't necessarily always take interest in the big acts, but it'd be like, oh look, this person's on this time, this person's on that time.
Yeah, you make your own bill.
Yeah, pretty much. It'd be like, I think there were a few nights in the past where I managed to squeeze in about 4 shows. Because it'd be like, right, okay, you'd have like an in-store at the record shop at about 6 o'clock in the evening.
Hmm.
Like probably like shows in places like the Thekla where it'd be like, okay, curfew 10 o'clock. Oh look, my friend's band are playing this venue literally around the corner. They're on like kind of 10:15 sort of thing. And then it'd be like, oh look, I could probably end up and start the bus, and then there'll probably be on someone on just past midnight. And I used to literally, I think I did literally absolutely obsessively plan those days. Really,
Yeah.
I don't know if you
It's,
think similar.
it's admirable. I tend to in Newcastle if there's 2 gigs on in a night, even if the 2 bands I really want to see are not on at the same time, I'm so lazy that I'll just choose one and I'll stay there and I'll just sit at the bar and I'm pretty bad for that, but it's very admirable making that commitment to run about.
But then also, to be honest, it's like sometimes I noticed that it made me really stressed out
Mm.
because I'd be like, okay, procrastinating as to which gig was going to be the best. Sometimes I'd be like kind of, because of like the obsessive tendencies.
Yeah.
It'd be like last year I managed to do it where I did about, I think I did like 3 or 4 things in one day. Like I remember like kind of going to see like Yak did like an afternoon show in Rough Trade. Then I went over to a recording session where I was doing backing vocals for Pet Shimmers, and then went to see Rachel Dad at the place called Friendly Records.
Oh yeah.
So
Rachel Dad is one of the handful of artists that I've seen live this year. I saw Rachel Dad at a venue in Newcastle called Cobalt Studios.
When have you been to a gig this year?
Sorry?
When have you been to a gig this year?
January was normal.
Oh,
January is normal. So I've been this year. I've seen Rachel Dad live. I've seen John, the band John,
on.
and a band supporting them called Dead Naked Hippies, and there was a band from Leeds on the lineup as well called Pole Vault.
Yep.
Pole Vaulter.
The pole vaults are fucking amazing.
Yeah, they were good. And then and the only other band I've seen live this year was Slipknot.
Well, hey, but the thing is there's so much joy to be seen in Slipknot's music. Like
Their new album's great. Like it's really good.
but you watch it terms of a show, and you know what you're going to get. It's going to be spectacular, and you know that it's going to be kind of like that you're paying kind of like good money for basically for the entire production.
It was incredible. It was really good. It was like Cirque du Soleil sort of thing. It was so good. It was so engaging, and we were sat like so high up, and that was at the O2 Arena in London, and we were on one of the penultimate seats, like right at the back, but it was just so good. Like it was very, very entertaining. I enjoyed it.
I mean, sometimes I've been like at seated shows where I've been right at the back, and sometimes it's made it because of like, especially if you're on like a balcony, it sounds better.
Yeah.
It's made it sometimes more intense.
Yeah.
Like I remember seeing completely opposite ends of the spectrum. Like I saw John Grant with the Northern Royal Sinfonia in.
Right, yeah.
Jesus Christ, that was a really emotionally intense show.
Mm.
Because that was when he was still playing songs from his first record.
All right.
And because I don't like his newer stuff as much.
I love Queen of Denmark, but I haven't heard much of his newest. Like I haven't heard the last couple of albums, maybe.
It's kind of gone more like electro poppy, but not. Because I know that he did a project which I saw him. He did a project called Creepshow, which was Stephen Malander from Cabaret Voltaire.
All right.
Like him basically divulging his love of 80s synth pop.
Mm-hmm.
And it was actually a really good show that they played at Trinity.
Right.
But I mean, like, yeah, I don't know. It's really, it's like, yeah, that was the last time which I saw him where I really genuinely found myself crying.
Yeah.
He's doing like stuff like Queen of Denmark, and it literally did sound like a spaceship taking off.
Yeah, he's really great live, right? Yeah.
But I mean, like the way that, but it was like also like hearing him sing, like songs about, because he used to write songs as a way of like kind of writing fan letters to like his favorite celebrities and like film stars, sort of thing. So
Sigourney Weaver, is that what that is? Right? Okay, it makes sense.
yeah, because it's like kind of talking about like, but it's talking about his personal life, but like in a fan letter. So it's like comparing his sex life to like her battling the aliens.
Yeah.
Especially because also he comes from like, an area of America where it's really, really conservative, like Texas sort of thing. And so it was like, I really like that, admire that kind of way of using analogies. I don't know if you've thought about that within, sorry, bring that randomly into Pigs sort of territory.
What, writing lyrics based on writing to celebrities?
Yeah, maybe, or like kind of like writing them as
Do
like,
one, could do one about like Martin Homes Under the Hammer.
yeah, exactly. He could like, or Homes Under the Hammer,
Yeah, yeah, could do something like that. Or yeah,
Jeff Barrow, sort of
yeah,
thing.
like,
To know to him.
yeah.
That would be a dark song.
Oh yeah, Jesus Christ. It's he's possibly one of my favourite, most cynical people to follow on Twitter.
Yeah, he's great. He's got a very very good Twitter account.
Oh yeah, Jesus Christ. I mean, like he's all. I mean, that's the thing is that you kind of get the sense that if you didn't know him in real life, you
Yeah.
kind of get the sense that he would be this maniacal kind of cynical kind of like old git really. But it's like you meet him and he's like completely not. He's a massive softie sort of thing.
Yeah, he's
Still,
absolutely,
still an old git, but he's a really nice, friendly old git.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Um,
If there's one image of this year that I'll probably sort of I'll keep and I'll take forward. I've got a screenshot of our when our album came out. We did an album launch party and we
Yeah.
streamed on YouTube and we had different guests on and we chatted with each guest for about half an hour or so. Jeff Barrow was one of the guests, and
Yeah.
there was absolutely, I don't think there was any context to it happening or anything that triggered it happening. But all of a sudden, Jeff was just stood in front of us with a gun in his hand, and I've got this screenshot of me like with this like really shocked expression on my face like this, and then the other like split screen is Jeff Barrow holding a gun, and yeah, that's my image of 2020. I think that it sums it up the whole year.
Actually, to be honest, because I was watching, I love the whole, like kind of, like when you like kind of drawing like a famous person, and like, on my page, and like kind of like on like was it like word art or something?
Yeah, we were playing like a Pictionary sort of game
Yeah.
because Adam's such a fabulous.
I say I'm a talented artist.
But I mean, like, cause I mean, like, yeah, I mean, I really, really enjoyed that actually.
Yeah, oh, thanks. It was so did we. It was that was the last bit of fun I had this year. No, it was yeah, it was a nice there was a real low, like obviously the album launch tour was cancelled and everything.
Yeah.
It was a nice way to claw back some of that enjoyment, which I think we did.
And I think the other thing is that also like it's, as I see in like the comments, is like it's a reminder of the community of the fans as well.
Yeah, it was like it was really lovely to see people in there and engaging and chatting and stuff. Yeah,
that's one of the things that's really helped me has actually been, like kind of, like sometimes, like with the live stream gigs, has been seeing like the fans in the comments section sort of thing.
Yeah.
So like sometimes it used to become like a regular sort of thing where I'd be like Tuesday night would be like kind of specialist subject night sort of thing. And I know exactly every single person on the live stream because I'd be like, oh hello, look look. It's be like, oh look, you're here, right? And I knew exactly that basically kind of like semi-cube people up for like virtual hugs, but then also like but I knew that I could make kind of like certain dodgy, shall we say, certain kind of jokes about them, which wouldn't necessarily be offensive, but but it'd be like there'd be like banter flowing about someone's kind of veganism. So like we'd always try and get all the artists to try and eat some of the pot plants to try and take bites out of the plants, sort of thing. Or like and like it's like Friday night used to be low. Like every Friday night they've been doing and I mean I missed the last couple because I've been obviously out and I've been actually around people. But it'd be like every Friday night would be like kind of right, okay, I'd watch like so I saw some of your live stream and then I'd be like, right, okay, now it's the low time.
Yeah.
And every single time they've always made me cry. Every single time I've seen them play, they've always because I think there is something about like sound frequencies which does interact with emotion.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, without a doubt.
I mean, I found like so like I could go and see a band like Low, and I knew that, and I'll go like right, okay, I'll be emotionally prepared. I'll be like kind of physically kind of psyching myself up, and like you can like they'd start, and then within the first 5 minutes be like, no, I'm a complete blubbering, like emotional mess sort of thing.
Yeah, no, they're incredible though. They're a real one off.
I mean, that last album, 'cause they've been I think actually they've probably been the past 10 years one of the most in terms of like indie rock kind of outfits. They're probably one of the most forward thinking in some ways.
Yeah, no, absolutely, and especially being so minimal as well. It's amazing how forward thinking it can be with such a with such a minimal approach.
I mean, like, well, it's like they set at End of the Road last year when they were headlining the Garden stage. It was like they're basically playing like the last album. It's like they hit the audience 3 times with like 10-minute long drones.
Yeah.
Like,
The
but
last album, the one that it's kind of it's got like electronic kind of elements to
yeah,
it. Quite minimal still, obviously, but that's really wonderful.
I think that I mean one of the things which I've also loved with them is also the way which their voices harmonise as well.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
And it was like as if in like one part where Alan Sparhawk is someone who's agreed to some point do one of these sort of thing.
right.
And it was like, right, okay, we throw you into the void. Mimi Parks is the voice that's going to pull you out of it,
Ah,
and it's kind of truth.
Yeah,
But
that's a very special connection, isn't it? That's
it's like as if I go to some shows because of like like emotional feelings sort of thing. So it's like as if in like you go and see like a band like Sun, like, and it's like you can't always explain it to people who've never seen them, but it is like kind of go walking into sonic sound bath of them.
Yeah, well, it's like you mentioned someone earlier, or we were talking about kind of smaller venues with that kind of sonic, creating that kind of sonic density with volume, and you used the word claustrophobic. You described it claustrophobic, and it made me think of the first time I saw Sun was at the Islington Mill in
Wow.
well, it's actually in Salford, but yeah, and I mean it's not the biggest of venues in there, and at the time, like it wasn't very high. It was only like I don't know, maybe even a foot off the ground. It wasn't a high stage at all. So you were just like face to face with the kind of the wall of cabs and amps and things, and
Jesus Christ.
they fired up. I just felt it. It was like somebody just like draped a cloak like over the top of me, and it held me there for however long they played. Like time stopped,
Yeah.
but yeah, it was incredible. Unbelievable.
But it's amazing, like, so sometimes I could go to a show like that and I'd be like really stressed out, but then I'll come out and I'd be like really stress relieved
Yeah,
because of like, and I've noticed the same with like with the drone artists like William Basinski, for instance, like
Yeah.
a show where he's playing eroding bits of tape, but because of like there's something, I guess, minimal and hypnotic about
it's
it.
it's like a meditative, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But then also, I find myself going to like sometimes classical shows and having the opposite effect
Right. Okay.
because of I have like sometimes synesthetic effects, within music. So I went to see it was in St George's Hall, which is like a classical venue in Bristol, and it was like a collaboration in between like an English violinist and like a kind of Icelandic lo-fi electronica producer, and there was something about it where it was like triggering off certain memories.
Right.
And so I've always like attached like memories to sound.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
And so like some of it was like so the first half of it was all like really nice memories. Then the second half of it was all like really kind of dark, kind of scary stuff which I'd been through.
Yeah.
You kind of like it reminded me of being in hospital.
Right.
I remember being because it actually inspired me to make because I've past few years, I've been making short films.
Great.
Well, with like a kind of organisation called Bigger House Films, who are based in Bristol.
All right.
They've been helping people like myself with learning difficulties getting into filmmaking. And so one of the projects I did was basically, it was like mostly stop motion animation, but it's based around my time in hospital because I had like a really bad appendicitis operation, which went really horrifically wrong. I mean, I was like 3 days in a coma. I spent like, this is like when I was 20, and I spent like 5 days in intensive care.
Yeah.
And like kind of, which whenever I say I'm lucky to be here, I'm genuinely lucky.
Yeah.
Remember that really, but the experience of watching these people play this music, you know, like the scraping sounds of violins sort of thing, it really did send like an absolutely chill down the spine and gave me like really severe flashback.
Yeah. Have you found that doing like making the animation around based on around that, has that helped you at all in terms of like being able to like process that experience and have a bit more
Yeah,
kind of control over those like negative memories, you know? Like,
I'd say yes, but it's also like as if it could be like sprung out of nowhere sometimes.
yeah,
But then it's also like as if I don't, but then also I don't always see it as a negative thing either.
okay,
Because of like I see it as like a reminder to say to like my friends that I'm thankful to have them, you know, like or like
yeah,
reminder to actually can like maybe celebrate yourself more.
yeah,
Mm.
yeah,
Like because I had like really traumatic, several really traumatic experiences when I was 20, sort of thing, and that actually I found that the trauma, even though it was bad and it was like really difficult, but it actually helped open me out.
yeah,
Because of like previously, I would say that I lived in a massive kind of like goldfish bowl sort of thing, but the goldfish bowl is I'm still in a bit of a goldfish bowl, but the goldfish bowl has got a lot bigger.
yeah, yeah.
That's a pond.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't think it's quite a pond. I think more like an ocean.
Oh,
Okay. Well, there you go.
You know, because like people can come in and come out of it, can't they?
yes,
That's true.
yeah,
And I think that I mean, like, it's made me reflect on things like, you know, like kind of like venues like the Louisiana sort of thing, which is my favourite space in Bristol sort of thing.
Hmm.
I mean, that's one place I definitely can't wait to return for live shows. I mean, because they've been getting by so far just about by being a pizzeria,
right,
All
okay,
right.
and like the pizzas there are really, really, really good.
yeah,
I
okay,
mean, like they well, it's really weird because if it's I think they're the only independent venue which I know of because they're family run venue, but they've got links to Italia '90 to the Football World Cup.
all right, okay,
Well, Schillaci. So so it's like the people who own it.
uh-huh.
His I think like because like Gianni's from Sicily, and his cousin was I think Bobo Schillaci. He played for Italia '90.
Oh wow, okay.
You know, he's like the top goal scorer. Yeah, for like Juventus at the time.
Oh, okay.
Wow.
It's a really random fact.
Oh,
Yeah.
good, good fact.
So
So yeah, they've had to like diversify a bit just to kind of keep the heads above water and the people.
yeah,
Yeah, okay.
I mean, have you found? Are there any particular, you know, when we can get back to doing full shows, are there any particular venues you're looking forward to potentially playing again?
Anywhere.
Be awesome.
Absolutely anywhere. But yeah, there are. I mean, there's. I don't know.
You must have favourite venues in your own city, something.
Yeah, absolutely. Like well, we were what we had planned was we were going to do 2 nights at the Star and Shadow in Newcastle, and that's a really wonderful place. It's a cooperative, It's run by volunteers. Aside from like putting on music events, they also have a cinema space and put on independent films. And sort of like films by local artists. They do like they've got like a little gallery space, so they'll put on like a lot of different art exhibitions, and they also do like loads of really wonderful things in terms of like they have like refugee support clinics and things like that. So they do a lot of good, and yeah, that's one of my favorites in Newcastle. And yeah, like I say, we were going to do 2 nights there, and obviously those had to be very much put on the back burner. There's the Clooney in Newcastle as well. That's amazing. Yeah, there are some good spaces.
Because back in January, I did a whole tour for Independent Venue Week.
Right. Oh yeah.
I did actually make it up to the Clooney.
Did you go to the Clooney?
Yeah, I did Nadine show at the Clooney. I did Nadine show sort of thing. I did the whole tour in the waistcoat which my mum had made me. Which I think it's might be on here. I don't know, but if it is, then I'll have to show you it because you haven't seen it. Because it's quite amazing. Let me get up. Whip. I nearly always have some part where I have like a weird show, like mini show and tell during the conversations.
I like it.
Yeah.
Like, oops, sorry. I just realised I accidentally switched the camera off.
It's all right. It's exciting. It's like you've gone like backstage to put on a different costume.
No, I haven't actually, but this. She made like it's a waistcoat which has got like loads of my old festival wrist.
Oh, no way.
Get in.
She's done like, so she's done both sides. Like full of, whether you can see stuff like I don't know if you can see that side.
Yeah. Oh, that's cool. That's such a good idea.
Yeah.
She even did the lining as well. She's
wow.
done a proper job.
Yeah, that's well good.
I mean, like, to be honest, I'm really lucky to be born into like a really creative family.
Uh-huh.
And so like, I mean, I feel lucky as if I've been supported into doing everything which I've done, really.
Yeah.
Because I was actually due to have my first solo art exhibition at the beginning, like back in May.
Right.
Had the lockdown sort of thing. So I was due to, because I've done about 70 or 80 odd kind of oil paintings.
Nice.
And acrylic paintings.
Have you been a lot more of that during lockdown?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, like, it's especially if I've been feeling inspired, then definitely.
Yeah.
I did a whole series of like self-portraits, which is one thing I'd never done before because of I'd done like kind of semi-portraits of musicians, like people which I slightly idolise, so like Saul Williams or like kind of Thundercat through to people on the local scene sort of thing.
Have you done Jeff Barrow?
No. Actually, now I've drawn him.
Yeah.
I did actually have, because I've the past few years I've gotten into actually drawing at shows. So
yeah, not that. I've seen some of you.
Yeah.
Well, actually,
it was actually like through when Beak played with Snapped Ankles at SWX in Bristol. I was like kind of there, I was sketching away. I had someone post up as a short, take a like kind of 20-second film clip, and then they posted it up on Twitter because I'm like Nick, and they were like, as great as excellent as Beak and Snapped Ankles sets were. What I really want to know is who the freaking hell is this Boppin' Bob Ross? I kind of took the name Boppin' Bob Ross and just ran with it. And it's like pretty much every show I go to now. It's pretty much I've always even like shows where they be full on mosh pits.
Yeah.
Sometimes I'd like kind of startle people because out would come like the sketchbook, out comes the pen and like the water brush sort of thing. I'll just like, up into a corner
And there's some really erratic strokes on there as you're getting like knocked about a little bit.
A little bit, but the thing is, I'm never in the middle, so I'm always like tucked into my corners,
Yeah.
and I think that's partly because I've never been a huge mosh pit fan.
No, I haven't, to be honest.
No, it's no.
It can get too overly aggressive, but I mean, like so I've always got my certain spots in each venue where I'll stand, where I'll either be untroubled because of like I won't necessarily be blocking people's views, because let's face it, I'm also like kind of quite big.
Yeah.
So usually it's like the Louisiana would be like the front left-hand side, and so I'll be like stood behind like almost behind the PA stack sort of thing. Or the exchange, there's like a front left-hand corner sort of thing. It always happens to be on the left. I don't know why, whether that's just because it was like the nearest place to the exit, or sometimes like I used to before they put the barrier up at the Fleece, I used to have a stone which I used to always stand on, and they named it after me.
Oh,
So,
wow.
Nice.
That's before they did like the work of extending the stage and everything. And there was like a kind of a pole right at the very, very front, and like almost in the middle of the stage sort of thing. And I'd be stood there because I'd wedge myself in between the pole and the stage. And I'd be down the front, so I'd be able to connect with the artists. Sometimes like kind of slightly heckling them. But if I do heckle, I never heckle for negativity. I heckle to try. I try and heckle like in a way like interacting with them, but for encouragement. Is a way of encouragement sort of thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, and also that if there's a full-on mosh pit breaking out, I would have the pole behind me. Even though sometimes I did accidentally crack my head on it, sort of thing, if I was headbanging. Like I went to see one of my favorite bands as a teenager was a band called Dub War.
Okay.
And they were like a ragga metal band from the 90s from like Newport.
Okay.
And they did a one-off reunion show at the Fleece. And so I was like, of course I've got to go and see them because I'd never seen them in my entire life. I remember the very next day was like a record store day. I remember not being able to move my neck properly.
I remember that sensation from my
I think it's called dirge neck is the medical term.
Well, not only that, I'd like kind of polarize myself because I'd also backwards crack the back of my head against the pole, sort of thing.
Wow.
My head back because I'm like, of course, when you go to see a band which is like your favorite of the teenagerhood,
yeah,
teenager energy is going to come back, isn't it?
Definitely got to leave with a mild concussion.
Yeah. Well, it used to be a sign of a good show if you left with mild concussion.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
But it was like kind of, yeah, waking up the next day and I think that there was only one. I mean, like, there was only one record which I was particularly obsessed with getting that on that day, which I did manage to get, which was Trans Am's album, because I'm actually like a bit of a Trans Am fan.
Okay.
But I just remember not being able to move my head properly. Just because if I was like, ouch.
You have to like turn like that.
Yeah, it was for most of the day sort of thing. Like to give myself neck massages.
Yeah.
But thankfully I got the Trans Am album. But sometimes also I find I don't know if there's. Have you ever found yourself having to go on like a show with people that you disagree with?
What, like disagree with like politically or musically or
maybe both?
No, I don't like. Not that I don't like any that we're aware of.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah. You don't.
I mean, I guess the reason why I asked this, partly because I'm just going to sound selfish and sorry for this. Is me talking at you.
Is this a trap, Jeff? Are you ambushing me now? Are you going to reveal something about someone?
Well, no, I had to go on. I went on Radio 4 on Saturday Morning Live a couple of weeks ago.
Uh-huh.
Because they do like basically they get a whole random selection of guests with supposedly inspirational life stories,
Yeah.
which I could have fell under that. And one of the other guests was Michael Portillo.
Oh, okay.
I was a bit like. I was a bit like I had to spend like 40 minutes just like gritting my teeth, just like
You weren't being interviewed by Andrew Neil, were you?
oh god, no. Jesus Christ, no! I had Reverend Richard Coles. He's actually really nice.
Yeah.
He's lovely, but he also like inadvertently revealed himself to be a massive Giant Swan fan.
Oh, really? Okay.
Because it was like 9:30 in the morning, and like he introduced like the section of like the 20-30 minute interview that he did with me.
Yeah.
By going like, yeah, if you're a young artist kind of looking to play Bristol, you don't want to be looking up seeing, you know, journalists chewing their like kind of their pencils, or like Robin and Harry from Giant Swan, or the guys from Avon Terracops. No, you want to be seeing big rappers. But like,
Oh, wow.
so it's like there's a bit of a clue in there, isn't there?
Yeah. Oh, wow, that's amazing. I was reading an interview on the Quietus the other day. It was an interview with I forget his name, but the vocalist from Napalm Death.
Barney Greenway.
Yeah, and in the interview, he mentions when he went on like Ed Miliband did a bunch of shows, didn't he? For I think it was Radio 4 as well, and he went on to teach him to like thrash metal screaming. But he said that Ed Miliband, just like before the show started, said like, you know, with him about Napalm Death, but said a few things about Napalm Death that only like an avid fan of the band would actually, you know, be able to recall. So yeah, he was quite impressed.
Well, that's kind of quite surreal, though, isn't it? To be honest, if
Yeah.
you put yourself as a like Napalm Death fan, you wouldn't exactly expect Ed Miliband in the middle of the mosh pit.
No.
You wouldn't necessarily expect, you know, an ex-member of the Communards to be in the middle of one rave.
Oh no.
But Fierce, I said, I mean, like, I really sympathise with him because obviously he had to put up with like Michael Portillo as well.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think there's definitely certain views with him that he politically completely disagrees with.
Yeah.
So. Yeah, to be honest, I mean, like, well, you just look at like obviously Thatcher's government.
Yeah.
That was terrifying, but I mean, like, but also like it was really weird because I also found out that he's also a massive fan of Isis and the Neubauten.
Right. Okay.
Like the German industrial band.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The only reason why that happened was because they had Tori Amos on Changing Tracks, which is like a section where they'll get like an artist to talk about a favourite song which they've been given and maybe a song which they'd give to someone else. Sort of thing, like as an inspiration.
Okay.
And the reason why I brought it up is because I'd seen her play live at Primavera Sound. And she was sandwiched because she was like a last minute replacement for the Eels.
Right.
But she was like sandwiched in between Babes in Toyland and Isis and the Neubauten.
Wow.
And which like Richard was like, oh yeah, that's a band which I've actually seen. You know? But they haven't played the UK in a long time. I was like, well, yeah, that's because they got banned from the country because their whole incident with the pneumatic drill. Actually, I think in the ICA they did find out about the historic tunnels underneath. With like, because of like their whole show is basically playing with like a factory.
Yeah.
They had like this pneumatic drill, which they basically drilled through the stage and basically tried to drill into like the historic tunnels.
Right.
It's like, yeah, of course, if you're gonna get banned, like doing a performance with a pneumatic drill.
Yeah.
It's a good reason for getting banned.
Yeah.
And yeah.
You see them on the last tour, the UK tour?
No, so they were due to play actually in September.
Right.
How were they?
like their 40th anniversary,
Yeah.
going to play at the Kentish Town Forum. But I mean, like, what? I mean, like, I saw them at Primavera. And it was a bit more like a kind of. I went partly because I didn't really know anything about them, apart from
Right.
the odd name, and they had Blitzer Bargeld fronting them.
Right.
But it was more, but so I went completely not knowing the expectations, and it was freaking incredible. They had a whole skip full of rusting nails, which which at one point they emptied into a huge container which was lined with contact mics, and so it's like picking up all the sounds of like the nails dropping, and they I think during one song they had like the drummer was playing like an 8-bladed sawmill, you know, like with the brushes sort of thing.
Yeah.
And you just start watching it going like, this is freaking amazing, but how expensive would the show be, especially having to get in, you know, like a kind of a huge skip which was hanging about 20 to 30 feet, 20 feet above the stage sort of thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, and the fact that they had to like have a mechanism which basically emptied all the nails into this huge container as well. But then it's like I also saw a documentary which they were in a couple of years ago called Desolation Unit,
Okay.
which was about which they somehow, sorry if this is going to go really random, and I'm sorry if I take conversations in random directions.
Great.
It was about how in Las Vegas in the 80s, a lot of the DIY shows were banned from ever taking place in the city centre. So what they did was what a group of them did was basically they said, right, if we can't have shows in the city centre, we'll just go out into the desert.
Yeah. Wow.
And they started putting on shows out like
Yeah.
kind of mini festivals, of which one of them was Ice Design Neubauten, and they had them playing like a huge like a huge tube basically. They were mixing like live bands with conceptual performance artists, of which the bands would play, and like obviously everyone would be off their face and whatever kind of drugs they could get their hands on,
Yeah.
especially like LSD and like all the psychotics sort of thing,
Yeah. Yeah.
which like kind of followed a lot of the grunge and like I guess kind of the sort of stuff which led to post-hardcore
Uh-huh.
kind of music. But you have the bands playing, and the conceptual artists would basically be finding stuff in the desert to blow up. It'd be like the most haphazard performances. It'd be like, I think that there was one time when they tried to blow off an entire cliff face.
They just try to get banned from every country possible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, like, well, basically, I think they managed to find this cave in this cliff, um, which I think they found some sort of old like massive oven with like a steel door, which they basically somehow managed to weld shut. Obviously, put loads of explosives in, and they thought, right, okay, we're going to blow up this cliff face. Obviously dangerous. Obviously, like kind of. And basically, what happened is that the explosives were so powerful that it didn't actually end up taking off the cliff face, but they ended up blowing this like sort of metal steel door, sending it flying off the hinges, which had bent in half. You're literally flying out above people's heads. You know, which one half of the people were going, yeah, Anakin, and the other half were going, holy fuck.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
You don't get that at the Tom Jones concert on the Las Vegas Strip, do you?
No, you wouldn't.
Talk shit about Tom Jones.
We're not, to be honest. Great singer, literally. But you couldn't imagine that ever happening at any like city centre venue right now, could you?
No.
Imagine if they did find that sort of thing happening. I mean, you probably could have got away with it in like the 70s, maybe.
Yeah.
Or maybe like without certain laws and restrictions.
Yeah.
Well, maybe if the pandemic rumbles on a bit more, then you may well see it coming back into fashion.
Well, yeah, I know. Well, I think that. Well, I mean, I've had certain thoughts of blowing up one certain central building, doing a Guy Fawkes, shall we say?
Once this video goes live, we're probably going to get put on some sort of watch list.
Well, hey, actually, that's really funny because also one of the other people who was on Saturday Morning Live with me, her dad had spent 31 years being spied on by MI5,
Whoa.
like an Australian immigrant,
Yeah.
and he was like an obsessive writer. But it's like, okay, so like people used to be a lot more suspicious back then.
Mm.
And I guess because they didn't have like things like the internet, so it wouldn't be as easy to pass
Sure.
information.
Yeah.
But yeah, could you imagine ever being placed on any watch list?
I mean, that's if somebody were to spy on me for 15 years, they would be wasting a lot of time. I would have a lot of sympathy for them.
I think the same with me. But I mean, have you actually ever heard of any bands being placed on, like kind of FBI lists? Because I know that there was like obviously.
When the old dirty bastard weren't the FBI very much looking at him for a long time?
I think they were. I think there was a whole like him and also oh god, what's his name? Not Frank Ocean. Tyler the Creator. I know was banned from the UK for a number of years,
Right.
and I think he was placed under, shall we say, supervision. And I know that in certain countries, like if you were like playing China, then they would actually, especially like big bands like the Rolling Stones,
Right.
the Chinese government had say so over what songs that they were playing.
Oh yeah. I've read similar things about like Russia and like there was like a big long list of songs. You can read it, you find it online somewhere. I don't know what decade this was in, but like a big long list of songs that you just like you couldn't play them on radio stations and things like that. It's
Yeah.
just and there was a reason for like each one as to why
Yeah.
it wasn't allowed.
It's really weird that, isn't it? But I mean, there was one band which I did see, which partly because of their wildness of their live shows, did get banned from their own country.
All right.
It was an Israeli band called the Monotonics.
Okay.
Oh yeah, they got banned from right. Okay.
I think they're placed on like Israel's FBI watch list because of like they got banned from loads of venues in Israel, partly because of how wild and unpredictable their shows were.
Yeah.
Like I think it's probably the second wildest show I've ever seen. Possibly I mean, like they were wilder than Le Savvy. They're probably as I mean, like they're probably as wild as Le Savvy Fav. And let's face it, Le Savvy Fav were wild, but in a really fun, playful way. Where
Yeah.
Monotonics were wild and kind of fun, but also in a really predictable and very dangerous way. Um, like they played a bar in Bristol. They played the Mother's Ruin. Like I think it's like about a year after it opened, and it was like the ultimate health and safety test. I mean, literally. I think it's basically like it was like the whole venue basically had steel reinforcements put into everything after that show, and then they also barred the windows as well
Wow.
because of like the whole thing was that they would never play on the stage.
Yeah.
They basically play on the audience, with the audience, and like kind of obviously on top of the audience.
Yeah.
And I mean, I remember like seeing them at, I mean, it's the nearest I've come to seeing anyone die at a show.
Right. Wow.
Having to hold on to like the singer's ankles to stop him from falling head first onto raw hard concrete, while like jumping up and down on banisters, and like those drunk French guys just like rattling the banisters, and you'd have like the guitarist like bouncing up and down in the window frame, and then all of a sudden like running over to the drummer to grab his bass drum and start thwacking it half the way across the room.
Yeah.
Always leave the audience in a procession. And the thing is, though, that they're like one of those bands where you never really went to go and see any particular songs because let's face it, there weren't really any. But it was like the whole like kind of joyousness of the raucousness and the kind of celebration of it all.
Yeah.
So it's like the first 20 minutes would basically be the singer and the drummer basically performing acrobatics on each other. With like the singer kind of like grabbing people's drinks, chucking them up in the air, and like trying to set fire to the drum kit. I remember him trying to do that, but then like
I think we need to up our game.
yeah. But
More acrobatics.
yeah, I know. But the thing is, though, that he was, I mean, like, who's in his early 50s as well, who's like running around in a pair of Speedos. And he used to always get, at some point in the show, he'd always get a bin. Well, he's always grabbing various people, like, especially like kind of girls, and getting them and basically lodging them in between him and the back of the drummer.
Right. Okay.
And then, like, he would always had this thing where he'd get a bin, empty the contents of the bin over the drummer, and then go crowd surfing in the bin. And so, like, the nearest bin that he managed to find was like the bin in the women's toilets.
No.
Yeah. So it was like kind of like every 30 seconds we had to stop. Every 10 to 20 seconds we had to stop someone from like trying to crowd surf over the edge of like this balcony sort of thing. And
Yeah.
they like all these used kind of sanitary products were basically flying around the place.
Wow. Okay.
It was
Wow. Where was this? Where was it?
There's a place called the Mother's Ruin
Okay.
bar in central Bristol, which is like one of the few kind of bars which I go and hang out in.
All right.
Really like much of a pub person, but it's partly because of I know all the staff there.
Yeah.
I know that I'm going to be safe,
Yeah.
sort of thing, and like, so I don't really. So
Nobody's going to chuck a bin over you.
yeah, but no, but the thing is, though, is that obviously I couldn't predict how wild the show was going to be.
Yeah. Right.
There's one point when they had to get like their security guard to go and like kind of drag a few guys out because like the smoking ban had just come in, and so the people leaning out the window smoking.
Right.
And he then turned around to be confronted with the singer with the bass drum. He's about to place it on the window ledge, and like you could just see like the security guard fully stretched out, kind of going no, kind of panicking. You had like the kind of the owner of the venue also like having kind of like along with another friend having to hold up the PA system to stop that from falling over.
Oh.
It was just like where.
Did the security guard hand in the notice at the end of the night?
Well, I think they kind of fired him eventually for other things because he was found out to be slightly dodgy.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. But it was like the fact, but it was just like the fact that the security guard had to drag these guys out the window, then turn around to be confronted, whilst he's, spread eagled in the actual window frame, trying to stop the singer from putting the bass drum, the drum kit on the windowsill to play outside the venue. Because they'd sometimes frog march like gigs from venue to venue.
Right, okay.
If you know what I mean.
Yeah.
The funniest thing which I found out which happened with them, because they got banned, because they were placed on like Israel's FBI watch list. So they couldn't be on Israel for like longer than 100 days. I think. Or there was something like that.
Okay.
Wow.
Randomly, they were doing a tour of America, and this is the most random thing I could think of any band from Eastern Europe to be involved in, but let alone Israel. Sarah Palin was filming a promo video for like when she was like campaigning to be vice president,
Right.
and it's like, guess which band she got in to do like kind of to also talk about foreign affairs.
What?
Monotonics. So they did this whole mime performance, and it was entirely mimed, which featured the three guys sat down, on chairs, with like photocopies of each other's face, which they would like kind of like turn round, then gradually pretend to mime to play an instrument, and they kind of like did a mini interview with her. And she was like, "Oh, which country are you from?" And it's like, "Israel." And then she was like, "Oh, we probably better not talk about foreign policy then." And
Oh my goodness.
Did they tip the bin on Sarah Palin?
I love that, to be honest. She's definitely someone who's bin worthy.
Yeah.
that they haven't made a spitting image character of her actually.
There's a new series of Spitting Image, isn't there? Have you seen any of it? I haven't. I watched the trailer. I've not seen any.
It's really, really, really good.
Yeah.
But I mean, like they got Dominic Cummings as like a space alien with the head twitching space alien. They've got Priti Patel as like a vampire, like kind of there's a vampire dungeon mistress. Like they've got Jacinda Ardern as like Mary Poppins. You know, like they've got I mean, some of it's just so spot on.
Yeah.
It's like also really recent news.
Sure, yeah. I used to watch it when I was a kid, like really quite young, about 5 or 6 years old. But like obviously a lot of what the content of it would just like go completely over my head. But I was always really like I was just entertained by the puppetry, by the puppets and by the images of it.
But, I mean, also they have like coronavirus as a puppet as well.
Right.
Yeah, so it's like, of course, there's gonna be jokes involving like Boris Johnson, coronavirus, and like obviously Trump.
Yeah.
Like, it's really funny. So like I saw one of the recent like sort of clips, I think from the second episode, where it had Trump, like kind of talking about like how to deal with like kind of international affairs, and it had like kind of Mike Pence, who's like, like how John Major used to be the grey puppet.
Yeah.
That's like now Mike Pence. He's taken over that role. We have to like explain to Donald Trump using glove puppets, like about international, the international war between India and China. And was it they have Jared Kushner as basically a shop dummy, which gets kind of wheeled in by like a banker everywhere. And it's I mean, like they got like Lewis Hamilton is like kind of in and he's like, oh yeah, I'm a tax dodging, like kind of human aid supporting kind of like racing driver.
Yeah.
The environment. Which is also like, yeah, light, and just like kind of, I mean, like pay your tax bill, then we'll definitely believe you. And they've got like Greta Thunberg presenting the weather.
Right. Okay.
But I mean, I think that's the thing is though, is that it's made me realise that this time, the need for laughter.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think that laughter cures like so much within anxiety.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
As well as getting out to shows, is being able to actually laugh at people or laugh with people.
Yeah. It's immensely valuable.
I mean, I've been finding myself like kind of going, shall we say, slightly stir crazy because I've been doing like almost like every day, like kind of laughing a little bit like Joker.
Yeah.
Sort of thing. But then
sometimes it's just on your own. It's like just like an exercise, I suppose. Like a
little bit like that. So it's a bit like a therapy sort of thing.
Yeah. It's scientifically proven to kind of help a little bit though, isn't it? Just by like the physicality of like smiling, it like those connections in the brain or whatever, they start to fire up.
But it's also like kind of it helps. There's the reason why it helps with people with mental health problems.
Yeah.
To look up at the sky. Because sometimes it's so easy, especially for someone like big like myself, to look down. But actually, when you look up on the sky, because if it pulls on the facial muscles,
okay,
it like it kind of like inadvertently kind of you find yourself kind of starting to grin.
Interesting.
Because sometimes I think that if you've ever found yourself in like a really down place, it's like just take a breath and just look upwards.
Yeah.
Because I think we spend so much time, staring at our feet.
Yeah.
Sometimes, even when you're walking around places.
Yeah, I agree with that. I've recently been using the sky as like I've been especially over the past like couple of months, I've been trying to train myself into becoming a lot more present than I think I ever have been, because certainly, I mean, I've been like this for a lot. You know, I've been a very anxious person and been a very stressful person for longer than the pandemic's been here. But I suppose the pandemic kind of brought it all to a head a bit at certain points and made me kind of really start to like, okay, what can I do to help myself here? And one of those things was trying to, one of the things I struggled most with about the pandemic was trying to like look too far into the future and trying to like second guess like what was coming next and what's happening, what's going to happen in 2 or 3 months time, and how will that look, and how will that leave me in that situation. And it's kind of futile a little bit, because a lot of those thoughts are only kind of manifesting more and more like anxiety and stress within me. And usually if I can kind of bring myself round to like present moment, 9 times out of 10, like the present moment, it's okay. Like it's for me, like, it's okay, and I can calm down. So that's something I've been trying to do on a very, very like regular basis, daily, hourly or whatever. And the Sky I've found a particularly good tool for that, because like the one thing about the Sky is that it's ever changing. It's
Yeah.
it's always different every single day, every minute it changes, and you can look up at it and then you can go, okay, well, what do I notice about it? And all of a sudden that brings you like into the present moment, and I found that really, really, really useful. Yeah.
It's like it like compresses all the things which you think are big, challenging things,
Yeah.
and like it actually goes, actually, it might be feeling like this right now, like really anxious for something, but no, it's only like a little tiny thing that in reality that I'm actually probably anxious about.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, like, I find that sometimes, it helps with sometimes having a bit of a change of scenery.
Yeah.
Like, for instance, like the other Saturday, my friends who are like some of the older gig goers, which I know, they also kind of go to like kind of non-league football matches, sort of thing.
Okay. Yeah.
See Cheddar versus Welton Rovers. It was a freaking great match. It was like kind of, but it also led to me going to the world's most expensive cheese shop.
Wow.
I think I spent about £13 on 2 lumps of cheddar.
Okay. Was it nice though?
Lovely. It's absolutely gorgeous. Absolutely, like in a proper mouth-watering cheddar.
Yeah.
Come and you kind of, if it's like a one-off sort of thing, then you got to treat yourself.
Yeah.
And I mean, like for the £6 entry for the match, we had an absolute cracker. I mean, we had 5 goals, 2 sendings off, too many pitch balls. Like kind of 10 minutes of injury time,
Wow.
and like 100th minute like winner, which was like a thunderbolt, kind of out the blue sort of thing. But
Wow.
but it was like the fact of like, and that was mostly the last 20 minutes.
Yeah. Whoa. Okay.
Like,
Yeah, you picked a good one.
oh yeah, well I think that it was just like, it was also the fact of being around friends as well, because also really randomly, Gareth from Los Campesinos is Welton Rovers media manager, and so
Right.
he runs all the media stuff for them, and so it's like before each half he'd be behind the goals which Welton were striking towards, setting up the GoPros to basically to film kind of to film the action to basically capture the goals. And it was really funny because I obviously tweeted about kind of going to the match, after it happened, sort of thing.
Yeah.
And I could mention that there'd be like several mini pitch balls, and then his reaction was basically, "We never expected to see mosh pits on the pitch either." you know,
Wow.
um, so that's a bit of like weird indie trivia.
Yeah. Yeah. That's good.
It's a bit like,
Yeah.
like when you think of like, I guess randomly like bands in the past, like Half Man, Half Biscuit. He used to book their entire tour around Tranmere Rovers away games.
Yeah. It's up here, Frankie Francis, who is the singer of Frankie and the Heartstrings. He does the match day, like he plays the music in Sunderland Stadium.
Oh wow.
Yeah. He's on. He's very, very briefly on the. There's 2 seasons of it actually on Netflix called Sunderland Till I Die, and he's briefly on the on a couple of episodes of the latest series.
I've been watching it.
Yeah.
I mean, like, if you ever want to see like a more misfortunate, like in a football club, Sunderland is just like that's the reason why they call them the Black Rats, isn't there?
Yeah, it's heavy, isn't it?
To be honest, like, whereas on the other hand, like the team which I support, because I grew up in the middle of Gloucestershire, is like Forest Green Rovers.
Okay.
In a way, inadvertently, are the most hipster football team.
Are they?
Oh, because they're like their managed their chairman is there's a guy called Dale Vince who set up Ecotricity, so
Oh.
they're like a entirely green, kind of vegan friendly football team.
Oh, this sounds good.
Like, but that's partly all because of it's like Dale Vince's money,
Right.
who's like a self-made multi-millionaire through
Oh.
Ecotricity.
Yeah.
Is if he floated them on the stock market for like over £1 million in his first, green energy company
Yeah.
to be floated in that way.
Yeah. Wow.
My dad used to work for him for a little while.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he said he's one of the hardest people he's ever had to work for. Just
Hard to have him physically. He's good at fighting.
been like driven.
Yeah.
When some people when they can't see other people's point of view,
Yeah.
and they've got a very singular goal. It's like he was
Yeah.
like. I mean, like he started up his company out the back of a van, basically, and like he was like homeless for like a number of years, with like his wife and child at the time, and he basically set up like wind farms, and so like or like solar panel farms sort of thing,
Yeah.
and yeah, I don't know. He's like self-made millionaire. He's also brought back into the community,
Yeah.
which can only be a good thing, really.
Absolutely. Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I'm just annoyed that I can't go and watch them play, because obviously it's like you can only go and watch. Was it anything under like tier 7 of non-league or something?
Right. Okay. I'm not sure. Yeah. So their matches, they still haven't played any
Well,
league games.
Well, no, they played league games, but but you can only watch it over like the internet.
Oh, okay. Sorry. Yeah, I got you. Okay. Yeah.
Should have explained. I should have said that, but I mean,
No. It's all right. In my head, I had it the other way around. That's yeah. Okay, I got you.
like, yeah. I mean, it's really weird, as if in how much society has been affected by the changes with this virus. Really,
Yeah.
there's so much that I feel that I was able to take for granted, and it probably but then also makes me look back and go like, look at what I've achieved.
Absolutely. Yeah. Good time for reflection.
I think that's what everyone should do, because like also like Matt, looking at yourself. I mean, you set up your own record label, for instance.
Yeah.
And doing stuff with like Oddbox.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. I've carried that on this year, and it's been fine. Like I've not. I got a bit worried at the start of the pandemic because I was putting out a release by Blom.
Oh, great.
They were going to be our tour support on the album release tour. So I was I'd factored in that they would probably sell quite a lot of those albums, from merch sales at the gigs and things. So when the pandemic rolled in and all the shows got cancelled, I was a bit worried. But people have been great. Like people have been really, really great. Yeah, the sales of that record have been very good, and yeah, quite quickly I was just like, oh, I don't need to worry about it at all. I mean, the album's fantastic. I wasn't worried about the
quality of it.
The album itself's brilliant, but I was a little bit concerned that like, oh, okay, maybe the sales of this are going to be a bit slower now. But people really got behind, especially with those like Bandcamp days.
I mean,
Like right at the start of the pandemic, they were just
mean,
mind blowing to support.
I found myself actually buying more music.
Yes, yeah,
Like, I can't get out to shows so much, but it's like, right, okay, I'd find myself even more now kind of going into, even if it's like Rough Trade or somewhere, or like if when Friendly Records reopens, I'll be back down there
yeah,
because spending any money which I've got.
Yeah.
Basically because especially if it's like kind of artists that I really liked, I'd value this. It's like even if I necessarily played the record a lot or not,
yeah.
I still saw it as like kind of giving them some support.
Sure, absolutely. Yeah,
I mean, that Blum record is superb.
yeah. I think they're a really special band. They're like those rare bands that, like, you can hear like certain touch points of influence and things like that, but they're, to my ears, like pretty unique. Like, and that's quite a rare thing, really. I think.
Yeah, but also like there's one band which I would say that they are slightly similar to.
Okay.
A band called Clit Drip, who are from Brighton.
I don't know what they're called. Clip.
Clit Drip, but it's spelled CLTDRP.
Okay.
They're freaking great. I mean, they released their debut record the tail end of August, and yeah, that's a great album. I mean, that's definitely like
Oh.
that's definitely a band which I think Blom would be perfectly suited to.
Yeah.
I mean, like they managed to mix like the bit crushery kind of noise of like lightning bolts with
Yeah.
like, the kind of, I guess, like Bikini Kill
Okay.
sort of things.
Yeah.
Well, like and stuff like the Locust as well.
Yes. Yeah. I've not listened to the Locust in a long time.
Oh freaking hell! They've got a new record, I think.
Oh, have they?
Really?
Well, they're due to play. They were due to play like Art Tangent this year.
Oh, were they? Right. Okay.
Playing it next year. That's
Yeah.
you can have festivals again next year. Touch
Yeah, 100%.
wood, touch wood.
Yeah. Nice.
But also like, but they were like one of my favorite discoveries of like the Great Escape. Not last year, but the year before.
All right. Okay.
Seeing
Yeah,
them,
it's a great escape because they've been going like a long time, haven't they? The Locust.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, they've done loads of different projects as well.
Right.
Because like you had like Dead Cross, and you had which was like what's his name, the bass player, and with like Mike Patton, and
Oh yeah. Right. Yeah.
had like Retox as well.
Right.
And I think that basically that they're kind of like a band where they constantly interchange members because I think that well, look, they all dress up as locusts.
Yeah.
I mean, I remember seeing. I mean, like possibly the most hardcore show I've seen at the Louisiana was the Locust,
Right.
and I remember having to part like a human wall. It's like a security barrier because like they basically. I mean, they played for like about 45, 50 minutes.
Wow.
They must have played like 50 or 60 songs
Yeah. Yeah.
because most of them were like a minute long.
Yeah. They just play incredibly fast, don't they?
I mean, like, but then like, but yeah, they I remember them being like kind of quite intense as well because there's something like kind of about, was it Justin Pearson?
Right.
He is a very, very, very intense person. Yeah. So I remember like seeing him with like Retox
Right.
thing, and I remember that night they had an Italian band called Zeus.
Okay.
They specialize in like ridiculously fast. They're like kind of like bass and drums duo sort of thing.
Okay.
But they're freaking amazing. But it's like it's like one of those kind of like duos where you're watching him, but you are continuously scratching your head, going, "What the fuck's happening here? How the fuck are they doing this?" You know, because like they're playing like, I mean, I remember like cause they had like it was like the Retox were headlining like an all-dayer thing, and I think the Zeus were on tour with them. They had
Right.
a whole upstairs downstairs thing, and there's like load of straight edge kind of hardcore kids, you know, typical scenesters who were there basically because of like their friends' bands were basically playing downstairs.
Mhm.
And I just remember their facial expressions whilst watching Zeus, was like, holy fuck, like slightly too hardcore for them,
Right. Okay.
just because of like there was no lyrics, but it was
Yeah.
just like the frantic pummeling, kind of the fact that they were playing like sometimes two different time signatures at the same time.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, like it's making my brain like kind of swell, to be honest with you. I mean, to be honest, if you're doing that, then it's got to be particularly intense,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah.
you know. And actually, it also brings me like to probably one of my favorite shows, if not my favorite show, which I was lucky enough to go to this year. Well, two of them. One of them being Anna Meredith, who's
Oh,
like a classical techno artist.
yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Another one was More Mother.
Oh wow! So I've seen Mo Mother a couple of times.
Ah,
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
She's brilliant.
They're amazing. Like, yeah, like absolutely, yeah, like especially live, like absolutely phenomenal.
Jesus Christ! But I mean, it's also like as if in that sort of thing where, you know, I said this to like Richard the other day. Sometimes you have to put yourself in a vulnerable position, and cause especially when you go into like a show like hers, she can be really confrontational,
Yeah.
and the whole art is about like kind of like the reaction that she creates from it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or like someone like Lingua Ignota, who I saw last year, where like she kind of like does really amazing but powerfully bleak,
Yeah.
kind of black metal neoclassical.
Yeah,
But it's like the whole thing is, I guess, so emotionally intense.
Yeah.
When she finished, literally like the entire room, which was a sold out show, was entirely silent for about 5 minutes because people didn't know whether they could actually breathe or whether
Yeah.
they could make any noise
Yeah. Yeah.
because they
Wow.
didn't know whether the show had finished.
Mhm.
You know,
That's good. That's really good.
yeah. But look, guys, I think I've got to chip on in a bit.
Okay.
right.
Thank you so much for your time.
That's been a pleasure, absolute pleasure.
Yeah, this has been great.
Yeah,
If it ended up with me mostly talking at you.
I like it. It's
Right.
like
Right.
I made some notes on various different things I need to check out as well.
Yeah.
So it's good.
I mean, also like, if you're gonna go to the cinema, also like for another film which has got a brilliant soundtrack,
Mhm.
go and see Saint Maud.
I'm desperate to see. I can't.
Yeah.
I'm self-isolating at the minute, so I can't. I'll not be able to go to the cinema anytime soon. But I haven't looked forward to a film for like Saint Maud for quite a while, so I'm very excited for it.
I must admit, I saw it like a couple of weeks ago, like in the showcase in Bristol,
Yeah.
and it's freaking amazing. It's especially for like a writer director's first film.
Yeah.
It's not like, I mean, it is kind of horror, but it's not like the kind of what people mostly label as horror. So it doesn't go for cheap jump scares.
Yeah.
Very much the psychological
Yeah.
side of things, and the soundtrack is again like Mandy, where actually the soundtrack ends up being slightly more terrifying than the film is.
Yeah. I'm looking forward to it. Yeah.
But yeah, and I've got to get ready, so I'm supposed to be heading off to the Trinity in about half an hour.
Yes. Well, then,
Right.
I will do. I'll go and like I'll go and be doing my bopping Bob Rossing and like my fist pumping and like head banging.
Yeah.
don't throw any bins.
Yeah,
Don't crack your head off any poles.
no, that won't happen. To be honest, I mean, like I'll be sat down. Although I did suggest actually one way which people could mosh socially distance. Simple, circle pit around the tables.
Yeah. Exactly. There you go.
Like tie everyone to like a bungee rope, which has like 2 minutes to limit, and just basically like kind of get them running around the, You get them running around have them running around the tables.
Yeah.
We could bring that in even COVID's not around, you know.
Yeah, but I mean, also like, have you ever thought about randomly like kind of doing like an online pigs show?
We have maybe tentatively discussed it. I don't think it's anything that any of us particularly are drawn towards doing or feel particularly enthusiastic about, I suppose. So yeah, we've not really taken, we've not really thought about it much at all, to be honest. Like,
I'm shielding. I'm still shielding.
And
So I've been outside for 7 months or whatever now, and it's not. Yeah, I don't know how we'd work it without. I don't know. It would be a tricky thing to do with that in mind.
yeah. I mean, it works. Like some bands and artists, musicians have done like really wonderful things with like the live performance thing and the live streaming thing. But for me personally, it's not something that I feel compelled to do. Like, I don't feel like I'm missing out by not doing one. Like, just for me, like, I'm just waiting for, like real live music to open back up again and have the community of that back. That's more what I'm kind of eager for, and yeah, I don't feel like any need to feel like we need to do an online like live stream.
Yeah, it's not. I think it'd be tricky for us to do just the way I guess we have a live show. I guess the way we play live, and I think it would. I think we struggle to get across what we are really and who we are.
Yeah. I mean, like we've touched upon it throughout like this whole conversation about like the sort of the physicality of the sonics and things of our band and other bands that we enjoy as well, and I think to not be able to present that to people, I think is like, I don't know, I feel like it would miss out a whole part of the experience that I don't want people to miss out on when we're performing, so
yeah.
I think also the other thing which I completely forget about is actually there are still people shielding like yourself, Adam. And, like, and I think that's another thing which I guess I've taken for granted because I haven't had to shield.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's a lot of people have their own. We're all in the same boat. Everyone's got stuff to deal with, but it kind of makes it logistically kind of very tricky, I guess. Yeah, well, I mean, we're kind of doing a little bit of writing from Holmes and like like Matt and Sam and Johnny are getting into the studio every now and again, and I'm sort of doing some stuff from home, but it's I think it's kind of made put everything on hold for the time being, but it's largely on hold anyway, isn't it? So
yeah, but then also, can you imagine how many lockdown records are going to be coming out?
Yeah, I know.
It's like I think we're going to all turn into like Nick Cave sort of things where
I think we'll be the only band that's going to have fuck all after 12 months. We've done now.
The thing is, but then also it's like I may have touched on it slightly earlier, but it's also like important to maybe take stock on how much you have done because you've been pretty prolific, in terms of like in terms of like releases and stuff like that, and the fact of,
the last couple of years have been pretty busy.
I mean, like, but then it's like there's also like musicians in Bristol who I know have been shielding, and it's like I guess that I'm lucky I haven't necessarily had a diagnosed health condition to force me into shielding, but because I know that if I did have to shield, I know that I'd be a lot like my anxiety would be a lot higher than it is. I know that loads of people's anxieties have been like really struggling. Like I had a friend of mine like a couple of weeks ago, he like could have took his own life because of he couldn't necessarily sleep. greyness.
Yeah.
And I
Sorry.
think
Yeah.
and I think that sometimes that we can't, like, especially if we're like, or like if someone like they're living on their own sort of thing, then it can be really hard to know how to reach out to people.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, because I know that there's been people like even bands like Heavy Lungs. They've had like several of them, like one of the members had to self isolate because he's had like intestinal like colitis sort of thing.
Right.
Had like a kind of a friend of mine called Jamie Cruikshank who'd been really bad, like affected by the virus, and he's got like like a heart condition sort of thing from it. But just makes me realise, you know, that as much as I'd like things to turn back to normal, we've also got to, you know, understand that that vulnerability isn't always obvious.
Mm.
You know, so we can't just see someone in like a wheelchair and go, look, they're vulnerable.
Yeah.
You know, that especially when you've got like internal diseases sort of thing.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. Well, you know, it's that sort of invisible illness thing. It's kind of it presents its own challenges, but um, yeah. I think it is important for, you know, not necessarily for me, but for there's a lot of people that are I'm lucky enough. I came back to stay with my folks beforehand, so I'm here. Got my folks here, got company, but you know, there's a lot of people in my situation who don't have anyone. You know, they're just on their own. Yeah, like you say, it's difficult to sort of. I don't know. It's just it's easy to kind of forget that, and to, like you say, you know, if it's not very blatantly obvious, then it's sometimes to.
I mean, that's the reason why having stuff like this is like been a godsend for me because of like I can see people's faces.
Yeah, same here. It's like I say, this has been a pleasure. It's
Yeah,
yeah, it's a real help, and I'm sure it is for people, you know, for other people as well.
that's the reason why, like, if I am on Twitter, even if I'm feeling like down, I will say that I'm feeling down. But then I know that if people give me warmth, and I'll give them warmth back, sort of thing.
Yeah,
Because I think that it's like kind of like I've been lucky with obviously doing these conversations, but then also like there's a group of Idols fans called the AF Gang,
yeah,
and there's a small group of them in Bristol who regular Zoom chats and quizzes and like kind of also like um if people aren't shielding, then we've been having mini get-togethers sort of thing, and actually they've been like quite an important lifeline, especially for someone like
yeah,
myself. Then it's like kind of, you know, kind of saying like kind of like we went up to we've been going on like every now and again we might go on a little bit of a road trip somewhere. So we went up to see a band called Brasher who are from Bristol,
all right, yeah,
playing Bridgewater, just like a couple of cars sort of thing. The reason why we went to that show was because of I've got a friend called Hannah whose 10-year-old son has started up his own music scene.
Oh,
nice.
He's like it's like he's actually been racking up more press than I have. It's been ridiculous.
He's got age on his side.
Yeah, I know. Um, his mum Hannah is like an English teacher, and so she decided, right, okay, for his English project to set him an assignment for work, that should get him to interview kind of various musicians for like his own fanzine called the Pint Sized Punk.
Amazing.
Yeah, and it's honestly it's one of the most fun interviews I've done. And I think I was like one of the first people that he kind of like interviewed as well.
Right.
And it's like really it's mental because like I think it was like one weekend where he had TV crews from like Australia. He had like kind of kind of people filming like media who'd be like I think there's one morning when he was on Radio 6 at like 6 o'clock in the morning, and on Radio 5 Live. Then he was on then like okay, he's on BBC Morning, like with like doing like the morning show.
Yeah.
And then he'd be like kind of, oh look, he's on Radio 6 again with like Lauren Levan and stuff like that.
Has he got an agent?
Not yet.
Are you thinking of contacting him, Adam?
Yeah. An interview.
You should get in touch with him. 'Cause I think that they've done more than enough for the rest of this year, sort of thing, at this moment. Because he did so many over lockdown. It was
Yeah.
every single day. So it's like the very first one was like me, Dev from Idols, and the guys from Milo's Planes,
Right.
a fantastic post-hardcore band.
Yeah.
I mean, like Joe Sharon, pretty much he's like one of those local musicians who pretty much everything he touches is gold. Just like everything that he's done, he's in like about 4 or 5 different acts,
Right.
and because he plays bass for like Fen Lily, he's like the main songwriter for like Milo's Planes and he's in Slunk, which is his own solo stuff, and he's got a new project called Jumbo.
Okay.
I think I think by the end of this year, he'll probably released about 4 different albums, and in different guises. But then everything that he kind of touches is inadvertently genius. I know.
Some people like that. Unfortunately, it's not us. But
it scares me.
yeah.
But also, what's scary is the fact that because Arlo's 10 years old, it's like, could you imagine if he's already got like a bit of an attitude and he's 10 years old? Could you imagine like when he's 20?
It won't fly when he's 20 because no one can say no to a cute 10-year-old, but a 20-year-old.
I know.
Yeah, that's different.
I mean, that's one of the things. That's one of the things which sometimes makes me laugh. Is actually one of my biggest fears has always been having an ego. Okay, like some people like paint me up as a bit of a cartoon character, which I kind of sometimes have fallen into. But I try not. But it's like if people try to have a conversation with me, it's like I try and deflate them as much as possible.
Yeah.
Because I've had it weird situations where I've been awestruck at people because like I'd be awestruck with someone like I was in the same room with PJ Harvey once and I pretty much blacked out because I was too scared to say hello to her.
Yeah.
Then I also had a really random situation. I don't know if you've ever had people be like starstruck or awestruck of you guys.
I hope not.
No. No.
Yeah, I hope not. Like, it's a funny thing, that sensation, isn't it? Because I've had it before. Like, as you see people like we played at festivals or whatever, and you see like a certain musician that you love and respect, and it's a strange sensation because at the end of the day, we're all the same, aren't we? We're all peers of each other. Like, you're the same as me, and no one's better than anyone else. We're all just people here to interact with each other. So it is a strange sort of when you see someone that you're like, whoa, okay, wow, and you get that like excited but also very nervous feeling.
Tom Jones is better. Tom Jones is better than us.
Tom Jones is better than us.
I'll hold my hand up and I say that I did get a bit starstruck / awestruck the first time I met you guys.
Oh, really?
Because I think sometimes, because if you've never spoken to someone before and you've just seen the image, I've seen you guys play. Obviously, it's like the Psych Fest like the year before, I think it was, and the first time
great, that was really fun.
That one in the lane.
Yeah.
Oh, that was scary.
Yeah, I was terrified during that show as well.
Oh, it was intense. That.
I mean, that was definitely over capacity.
Yeah. I just remember it being like so hot and so humid.
Yeah.
Like really humid.
I remember you picking. Also, there was that whole thing with that cut off lead as well.
Oh my goodness, yeah, there was some like drunk guy, like he picked like I noticed it like halfway through a song, and there was like a cut lead,
Yeah.
and it was just yeah, and I didn't know what it was. It could have, you know, at the time I was like, it could be mic lead, could be electrical. I don't know, I don't know.
Potentially really dangerous. Like,
Yeah, and then like at the end of the song when I mentioned it, so like the sound person could like come and check it out. There was some guy on the front row just like picking it up. I was like, "What are you doing? This is like, that could be really dangerous. Don't do that."
yeah. I mean, I very much felt the fear at that show as well, because I remember like kind of having, because sometimes I do get claustrophobia sometimes.
Right? Yeah.
It was because it was like overly packed.
It was claustrophobic on stage. Like, so I don't know how you felt in the audience.
Oh man, that's the reason why I was down the side.
Yeah.
Like I was like, right, okay, I was in the one place where I wasn't necessarily going to get jostled about entirely, and you know I could slightly breathe.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember that show being a particularly intense one because we were on quite late as well. And, you know, it was one of those like all day things where people had just been drinking since like 11 a.m. in the morning. So by the time we got to play, everyone was just like, "Oh," I was like, whoa, okay.
I mean, like I remember like kind of straight afterwards having to go into the courtyard just because I was like, too many people, too many people, too many people.
Yeah.
You know, and because sometimes, you know, as much as I do enjoy shows, they can sometimes have that kind of scary intensity.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, no, absolutely, yeah.
And
Yeah.
I think that I think that they weren't aware of actually how over capacity it was.
Yeah. Yeah.
First open.
Yeah, I remember there being like a couple, and I do try to kind of address it when I see it, like really like boisterous males in the audience that are like, you know, really sort of imposing themselves physically on people, and like, you know, just I don't know, not respecting other people's boundaries, I suppose. And like, yeah, that did happen a little bit at that show as well. I remember there was a couple of like really big guys just like charging, like really charging. And I was like, no, that's not,
It's
you
like,
know,
no, come on, that's not this kind of music.
no.
If you want that kind of music, go to a hardcore gig.
Yeah, yeah,
Even actually, most of the hardcore bands would probably stop and go, no.
sure, yeah, yeah. I mean, the last thing
They want to go and see some deathcore. They'll let them do whatever they want.
Yeah.
As long as you're vaping, it's fine. You can punch anyone.
No, as long as you're vegan and you're vaping, you can basically go and see as much deathcore as you wanted. Because of like, but it's like but that's part of the reason why I kind of like semi fell out of love with certain scenes.
Yeah,
If they did get too machoistic, I'd be like, no, no, this is like
sure,
you kind of boast about being really hardcore, but you're really not.
yeah,
I just like kind of go like, right, okay, you boast about being really hardcore, but I'm going to take you to see Le Savvy Fab, which is like really hardcore, but really hardcore fun.
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, it's certainly like it's something that we're aware of, and it's like it's the last thing. Like that sort of atmosphere is the last thing that we want at any of our shows. Really, it's not.
Yeah.
It's not for us.
But it's like as if in, you know, like as a like also a speaker as an audience member. I mean, like I'm someone who's like, okay, I'm really big, but I'm also a massive softie.
Yeah,
I'm more likely someone who wants to run around and hug everybody than necessarily necessarily start a pit fight or anything like that.
yeah,
Although, like, I think that although one of my favorite shows last year was actually kind of like a hardcore gig.
right.
It was a band called The Armed.
Okay,
All
They,
right.
they delivered two of the most funniest sets I saw last year, and it was partly because of what the singer did or the singers.
uh-huh.
Um, they're like I'd say that they're a bit like kind of slightly Dillinger Escapee plan sort of style
Yeah,
of outfits. But they played with like 200 BPM strobe lights flashing throughout every single one of their songs. So that increased the intensity. Plus, also like it's like their main singers like one of them. It's like I describe him as like if you imagine like a 40-year-old kind of wrestler, kind of like but the mentality of a 12-year-old. You know, he's been locked inside a sweet shop for too long.
Right. Okay.
And so his whole thing was like really uber positive.
Yeah.
But I mean, I saw them play twice. So they played at the Louisiana, which gave me one of the funniest visions I'd seen all year. To be like, 'cause obviously I was there, I was sketching the gig in amongst all the 200 BPM strobe lights, like sketching the singer, and like obviously he called me Bob Ross. Like, how's it going, Bob Ross? Gave me a massive hug, and then basically like proceeded to give, kind of charge around the room, just giving people hugs, and he even went up to he went up to the sound engineer at one point, and like my friend Sam was doing the sound for the show, and like Sam was like slightly terrified because he was thinking if he's going to be shouting something really aggressive at him, and like nope, they basically finished the song and said great job, high fived him, then like kind of he basically kind of went and got this guy, picked him up over the shoulder, and started carrying him around the room while
Whoa.
singing. He's like 7 foot tall. Like they did they also did 2000 Trees Festival
Oh yeah.
outside of Cheltenham, where they were allowed to, because at the Louisiana for some sort of passport reasons they weren't able to have their female singer with them
Right.
because they have like a male and female singer.
Okay.
But they had her. They also had their friend with them, who like quite often like does shows for them. He's like a conceptual performance artist, and he's like dressed completely head to toe in camo gear. Had a table full of like croissants and French cheese, packets of French cheese, and like kind of cans of lager, and which they had literally set out in this tiny little tent called the Noise Stage, which where quite a lot of the new bands play.
Right.
And so basically during the performance, this guy was kind of like handing out croissants and French cheese to spin kicking hardcore kids, and then like it'd be like kind of. It took about probably 20 minutes before they eventually cleared the table out of the way because it did end up eventually going flying. But because of like every single time the kids started up their spin kicking, it was like, here comes Randy, like the massive 7 foot tall, like American guy, literally coming like kind of charging through them, picking them up and then carrying them from one side of the tent to the other side. Literally underarm. And like you had
Need more of that.
He had like a female singer who'd also be ballet dancing like around the audience, but then every now and again, like their conceptual performance related friend basically would like kind of crawl through people's legs and like kind of go up behind her and pick her up and start parading her around the tent. It's like there's like 200 BPM strobe lights for the entire thing.
Whoa.
I think the bit which I generally did feel slightly scared because of Randy's overly positivity was the bit where he went to the back of the tent, climbed up there, kind of like high-fived all the sound engineers,
Yeah.
up onto the soundboard, and basically kind of did what I described as a kind of transformer-like kind of like dive slash wrestling move, kind of dive on top of the audience.
Whoa.
And then like but it's that sort of thing where if people fall down, he'd basically pick them up and he'd hug them, and then like, but also like when they did eventually move the table out of the way with the French cheese and the flying croissants and kind of everything else, he basically went up behind a whole load of people and said, it's like kind of. It's like, hey, best seats down the front. Literally, kind of like scooped up about 5 people in his arms and literally shunted them forwards.
Wow.
But
Make a note. We need more. We need a like continental buffet.
Yes.
Shows.
I can't lift. I can barely lift my own body weight. Never mind somebody else's. So.
Well, neither can I, to be honest. I mean, I could barely lift my own body weight as well.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ, could anyone imagine like actually being able to lift me? I mean, he'd have to be like.
Listen, next gig you're at, Jeff, we'll try it out.
We're going to take up the challenge, Jeff.
Yeah.
What you mean tonight? So I'm probably going to get a load of stick thin guys who are basically like playing nerdy kind of prog jazz to try and lift me up.
Yeah.
Good luck with that. Good luck with that, Waldo's gift. But I mean, But also, what was really funny was that they released a single called featuring Frank Carter, where they got hold of one of Frank Carter's demos, like for that he didn't use on one of his records. Basically, sampled it and like kind of like to create like their own song, and then stuck us and basically used the front cover for the single is basically a photograph of Frank Carter's face. So they did this kind of joke song called featuring Frank Carter. Which is,
Real power move.
the only thing is though, sometimes because of like it reminds us sometimes that actually sometimes humor can make things more hardcore.
Yeah.
You know, because sometimes we do take things a bit too po-facedness.
There's a genre of like dance rave music, isn't there, called happy hardcore?
I don't like that at all.
I mean, I'm not a huge fan of it, no.
But no, because it feels too synthetic. But when you go,
It's terrifying, isn't it? Yeah. Because
Well,
they have the really high pitched like vocals and like
well, so I was talking like more like as if in like kind of like hardcore punk sort of thing.
Yeah.
Like as if in the fact that sometimes if you can mix humor up, you can sometimes also talk about really serious things.
Yeah.
At the same time, and like that. I guess just going back to like what I said, almost like the spitting image. You can talk about you can use it to talk about really serious issues.
Yeah.
Then also like because of like you're using like punchlines sort of thing.
Yeah.
Then it can be more effective. A bit like Big Black and stuff like that.
Yeah.
It'd be like, okay, the Steve Albini way of approaching subjects.
Sure. Yeah. Absolutely.
But yeah. But anyway, dudes,
Yeah, sorry, we'll let you go. Yeah, it was great. Thank you very much.
Oh man, thanks for wasting a couple of hours with me.
That was grand.
Right.
Right, good dig.
Night.
Yeah, enjoy it.
I think we've been on for like 2.5 hours.
Yeah.
That's the second longest one I've done.
Who was the longest?
Kate Stables.
Okay.
I mean, like if I put the two combined times of like how long I've been, could I re-record her conversation? Then
Right.
it'd be, like, longer than an extended version of Lord of the Rings. Yeah, exactly. But thank you so much, Matty and Adam. Look after yourselves, and
You too, man.
Yeah. God bless everybody. Hopefully, I can see you maybe in the new year. Fingers crossed.
Yeah. So.
I definitely, if the tour goes ahead, I'll definitely be at the Bath gig. 100%.
All right.
Take care.
Thank you so much.
Bye.